Matthew, study number 32. Good Wednesday morning to you. This is Mark Pierce of ChurchRequel.com, and I am very excited about our Bible study today because we go into a whole new direction today. In fact, before we get into the study, let me just say that if you have any inclination at all to share this Bible study with someone else, this would be a great opportunity for you to have them begin to tune in. Because we see a natural break here between Matthew chapter 3 and Matthew chapter 4. And I know maybe one of the downsides of numbering these Bible studies is that it may cause someone to say, well, I'm way too far behind to get caught up. Well, tell them not to worry about getting caught up. Tell them just to tune in today and to keep tuning in. Today we want to read the first verse of Matthew 4. In fact, we're going to be here for at least 3 days on this verse because this is really so critical to our understanding of our life as a Christ follower. So let's pick it up here. Matthew chapter 4, verse 1. Then Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. Now, this brings all kinds of questions to us. Remember, we just finished watching Jesus' great victory, really, being baptized. As he comes back up out of the water, he and others near him hear this voice coming out of the heavens that says, it declares, "This is my Son, in whom I am well pleased." The Spirit descends upon him like a dove. We get this great picture of Jesus being in the midst of the Trinity, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. This certainly had to be a great moment of confirmation for him, a great moment of victory. And yet we see that immediately after this, Jesus is led into the wilderness to be tempted. Now, we don't get the immediately sense right here in Matthew, but we do see the parallel verse in Mark chapter 1, verse 12, where we see the word immediately. In fact, Mark uses the word ekballo, which means to drove Jesus into the wilderness. Literally means impelled him, forced him to go into the wilderness. Now, we come to this word, and this word, tempt, to be tempted by the devil. We really must do a bit of a word study here because it raises the question, is it possible that God causes temptation? Is this something that God caused Jesus to be tempted? And more to the point, does God cause us to be tempted? Well, let's take a look at it. This word that is used here for tempt is actually the word peirazo. Peirazo. This Greek word is really more of a neutral word in the original language than what it is for us as we read it here in the English. Peirazo can mean either to test or put under trial, or could mean to tempt. Now, whenever we see the word peirazo used in the tempt form, it usually in our English gives a negative outcome, meaning that we are expecting someone to turn from righteousness to unrighteousness, and that would be the negative form of it. But if we were to talk about someone being under trial or tribulation, or if someone is undergoing a test, the expectation would be that someone would come through this in a positive way. So peirazo could be translated either way, to test or to tempt, to put under trial or to tempt. Let me give you a perfect illustration of this in James chapter 1. turn over to James chapter 1, and we're going to see this same word, both in the noun and the verb form, used a couple of different ways. We read in James 1 verse 2, "Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kind." That word trials is this same word, peirazo, in the noun form and in the plural form. We skip down to verse 12. "Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under," what? Peirazo, under trial. "For when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life." Now the interesting thing about this, and we see it more clearly here in James chapter 1 than we do any other place, if you just go down a few verses, in verse 13, we read this, "Let no one say when he is tempted, I am being tempted by God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, and he himself tempts no one. But each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire." Now there we saw 5 different uses of the English word tempted. And in all 5 cases, it is exactly this same word, peirazo, trial. But it has the negative outcome. It has the expectation of being enticed and lured into unrighteousness. Now there is no question about the fact that as we take a look at Matthew chapter 4, that it was the intention of the devil to tempt Jesus, that the outcome of the trial would be a negative one, of a turning from righteousness to unrighteousness. But let's be clear, that was never the intention of God. We'll stop there today and pick it up here again tomorrow. I hope that you have a great Wednesday.